A dark horror story about glitches in the Matrix always begins quietly, almost invisibly, in the folds of ordinary life. Ethan was not extraordinary in any way. He was the kind of man no one noticed. He worked a 9-to-5 job in a bland office filled with humming lights and beige walls, commuted the same bus route every morning, and ate the same stale sandwich at the same cracked desk. His existence was defined by repetition, and maybe that was why he didn't immediately panic when things first began to unravel. It started with subtle ripples in his day. The bus always stopping in front of the same red car, the same woman coughing 3 rows back at the exact same second. The same conversation about the weather echoing like a broken record. One day, when the bus halted at a traffic light, time seemed to fracture. Ethan blinked and realized every passenger was frozen. The driver's hand hovered in midair. Eyes glazed. A fly hung in the sunlight like a photograph. Ethan's breath came ragged. The only sound in a world paused. He touched the arm of the man beside him, but the body was stiff, cold like a mannequin. His heart pounded, and just as he stumbled back, reality snapped. Reality snapped, and resumed, unaware anything had happened. He tried to laugh it off, convincing himself it was exhaustion, stress, maybe a hallucination. But in the stillness of that night, lying awake in his small apartment, Ethan could not shake the terror. Had he slipped through a crack in the code? It told no one, not yet, but fear grew with every beat of silence in the dark, a silence that felt less like absence and more like surveillance, as though someone or something was watching him notice. The glitches grew bolder. Ethan arrived at work to find his coffee cup already on his desk, half empty, though he had not yet brewed one. Street signs whispered new words when he glanced away, rearranging letters into phrases like, "We see you, and do not look again." Mirrors betrayed him his reflection would smile a split second later, or linger staring when he turned his head. He felt an unbearable isolation, a sense that the people around him were not real, but placeholders. Actors following scripts that sometimes faltered. He confided in Anna, his closest friend, whose pale blue eyes had always been kind. He told her about the frozen bus, about the reflections, about the whispers and signage. She laughed nervously and brushed him off, muttering something about stress. But then her laughter cracked, and she leaned closer. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Don't say it out loud. They'll hear you." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Who will hear me?" he asked, and in that instant her face drained of all color. She tried to speak, but her lips moved without sound. A ripple passed over her body like static crawling across a screen, and in a blink, she vanished. 1 second she was there, the next she was gone, leaving behind nothing but a fading warmth where her hand had rested on his desk. Ethan sat paralyzed, his heart pounding. Around him, the office continued its mindless rhythm. Phones rang. Keyboards clattered. Colleagues laughed, yet no one noticed Anna's disappearance. He searched for her in every corridor, dialed her number 100 times, but it rang hollow, disconnected. It was as though she had never existed. That night, the street lamps outside his apartment buzzed with glitching static, flickering in patterns that looked like Morse code. He pulled the curtains shut, but he couldn't escape the message in his mind. "You've been seen." Sleep offered no refuge. His dreams became labyrinths of collapsing corridors, faceless figures, and endless loops where he woke inside the dream only to find himself still trapped in a false reality. Morotan, 11. He dreamed of waking to find copies of himself sitting at his desk, riding the bus, standing silently in his apartment. One morning, he bolted upright in bed, heart racing, only to discover the alarm clock blinking backward from 7 o'clock to 6:59, then 6:58. Time was unraveling. He left his apartment and stepped outside, only to find his office building waiting across the hall. The layout of his world, bent impossibly doors, led to places they shouldn't. Hallways stretched into infinity. Staircases spiraled endlessly before dumping him back at his front door. His screams echoed into the void, but no neighbors emerged. No sound responded, and then he heard it. A voice neither human nor machine. A static-filled whisper bleeding through the walls. Error detected. Conscious entity recognized. Reset required. His blood ran cold. He shouted, begged, pounded at the walls, desperate to escape. The voice droned again, closer this time, vibrating through his bones. Reset required. Reset required. Lights went out. The hum of the world ceased. He stood in a void darker than night. The silence so suffocating he wondered if he was already dead. But death, he realized, would have been mercy. When light returned, Ethan was not the same. His apartment looked identical. His desk was arranged just so. His reflection smiled on time, but something fundamental had shifted. Colleagues greeted him, but their eyes were vacant, glassy, like dolls, painted with faint imitation of life. He tried to speak, to scream, but words caught in his throat, as though the world muted him. At first he thought he had survived, that he had escaped deletion, but the truth gnawed at him with every passing hour. His hands trembled when he looked at them too long, the skin rippling like pixels rearranging. Mirrors showed him grinning when he was blank-faced, and the worst came on the bus, when he sat in his usual seat and glanced across the albatross. Sitting there, perfectly still, was Ethan. His double, his copy. The copy turned its head and met his gaze with identical eyes, but the smile was wrong, stretched too wide, too knowing. Passengers around them seemed oblivious, yet Ethan felt every molecule of his being unravel. He leapt off the bus, stumbling into the street, heart racing. From the window, his copy stared after him, not moving, not blinking. That night, Ethan tried to end a tracer to wrist. Pills by the handful, but every cut healed, every pill dissolved into nothing. His body was no longer his own. It was code, and code could not die, only be overwritten. Each day he awoke more hollow, until he realized with mounting terror that he was no longer Ethan at all. He was the copy. The system had erased the original. What remained was a perfect duplicate who remembered, who suffered, but who was nothing more than data locked in a machine's cruel joke. And worse, he wasn't alone, because he began to see them everywhere. Copies, replacements, smiling too wide, breathing just a beat too late. The glitch had spread, rewriting the world one human at a time. Now when you walk through your own city, when you sit on a bus or glance in a mirror, when you feel déjà vu gnawing at your brain, ask yourself, are you sure you are? Or are you a copy, a duplicate carefully placed by a system that deletes originals when they wake up? This wasn't just a story, it was a warning, because Ethan was not the first to be erased, and he will not be the last. Somewhere right now, someone you love might be gone, replaced by a version so perfect, you'll never know the difference. Maybe it has already happened to you. After all, how would you even tell? A dark horror story about glitches in the Matrix is terrifying not because it is fiction, but because it feels too close, too real. The system does not tolerate awareness, and by listening, you've drawn its attention. If the lights flicker tonight, if your reflection lingers when you look away, if time skips or freezes for just a moment, you'll know the truth. You've been seen. And once you've been seen, it's only a matter of time before the reset comes. If you want to test your courage, if you want to walk deeper into the nightmare, don't stop here. Click to the next story, one even darker than this one, and see if you can survive the night. But remember, watching means noticing. Noticing means being noticed. And being noticed means you might already be next.